I've been reporting for ARD as a Moscow correspondent for 5 years. Everything changed on February the 24th, 2022, the day Russia invaded Ukraine. The country I live in is waging war. A war that must not be mentioned as such, and yet has consequences for everyone. Over a period of several months, I interviewed 4 people on how their lives changed in this historic year and how this war is changing Russia. A look at a country that is increasingly shutting itself off. St. Petersburg in February 2022. Thousands take to the streets to protest against the war.
I was almost arrested 3 times. It was confusing, tense. Many people were angry about what was happening. A lot of police were there. There was a big police convoy at this spot here.
Darya Heikkinen is a successful TikToker. At just 18 years old, she's one of the few who are still protesting against Putin's regime. She tells me that the police put pressure on her after the demos.
They came to my building with a search warrant and searched my apartment for 2 hours. Then they took me to the police station and put me in custody for 2 days. It would be easier if we in Russia could say, "Take to the streets today, everyone." But Putin has intimidated us for 20 years, and he removed any possibility for us to influence policy. So it's very difficult.
While we report from Russia, new laws are being passed almost every day. The word war has become taboo. Independent media has closed down. Thousands have been arrested at demonstrations throughout the country, and the strategy has clearly been successful. Protests have stopped, like here in St. Petersburg. Nothing suggests war here. Almost nothing. Darya and I find these words in the city center, "No to war." In Putin's Russia, writing this could land you in prison. People outside Russia need to understand that, says Darya.
It's important for me to say that we exist, that we are many, despite everything. For one wrong word or wrongly worded sentence on social media, you can get 10 years in prison. It's difficult to say anything now, but I'm certain civil society will still find ways to make its opinions known.
Will she turn out to be right? Kaluga, 3 hours south of Moscow. This city of 340,000 inhabitants has long been a prime example of Western investment in Russia. Volvo and Volkswagen have factories here. We want to find out what effect the sanctions are having. When the Russian war began, the assembly lines came to a standstill due to the sanctions, but also fear of a loss of reputation in the West. It's March now, and thousands of cars are parked at the Volkswagen factory site, but most of the workers are at home. One of them is in the suburb of Kaluga 2, watching fishing videos on YouTube.
There was a letter saying that production would be stopped until April 11th. But we will continue to be paid.
Prices have gone up, but it's hardly noticeable. I think we'll feel it later.
Are you afraid?
No. We've gone through so many crises in Russia. What doesn't kill us only makes us stronger. We'll get through this too.
Dmitry already has a second job, a small building renovation business. So he's benefiting from the production standstill at Volkswagen. His salary continues to be paid, so he can expand his business during this downtime. Or enjoy life, like here at a local lake.
When things are bad, people start getting interested in politics. As long as your life is good and comfortable, why should you get involved in politics? Why not spend your time at the lake, walking the dog or fishing? While you can, you should live your life and not be interested in politics.
The war in Ukraine is far away and not their business. That's the message. Many Russians think like Dmitry.
10 years ago, everything was different. Our jobs and opportunities weren't as good.
The war has not directly affected them so far. This is probably another reason why there are no mass protests in Russia. But even at this stage, it's clear how brutal the war is. A look at the news is enough proof of that.
Das sind Luftschläge auf unsere zivile Infrastruktur.
Präsident Zelensky sprach von Kriegsverbrechen, die in die Geschichte eingehen werden.
Besonders dramatisch die Lage in Mariupol.
Hunderttausende sind dort von jeglicher Versorgung abgeschnitten.
Leichen werden in den Innenhöfen von den Wohnhäusern begraben.
Wie ein Bruder schützen sie ihre Nächsten mit dem eigenen Körper vor den Kugeln. So eine Einheit hatten wir lange nicht.
By mid-March, hundreds of thousands of Russians had fled abroad, not just from Moscow. Konstantin Osnos is also thinking about leaving the country.
Until recently, I lived in a relatively open country where travel was possible. Now I'm suddenly living in an isolated country, and that's traumatizing.
Konstantin is in his mid-50s and works in the IT industry. His wife, Asya Anistratenko, is a translator. They now want to leave their country due to Russia's war. But it's a big decision.
We feel something like this. If we stayed here, we would be silently supporting what the state is doing. For example, by paying taxes that finance the war and the army. And we don't want to be complicit in what's happening in Russia right now.
The couple have 2 children and 2 cats, their son Philippe and their daughter, who prefers to not be on camera. They haven't yet decided where they will emigrate to. Germany? Israel? Konstantin is putting together all their documents in the hope that everything will work out. To understand what's really happening in Russia, you have to get out of Moscow. For example, here in the south, in the Stavropol region, many of the soldiers fighting in Ukraine come from this region. We visit a farm with an amusement park. It's popular with families. And Roman Ponomarov is the boss. He's in his late 30s, a Putin supporter, just like the majority of Russians.
When a country gets into a difficult situation, people eat more and stockpile more.
Roman hopes for a good harvest this year. His cucumbers, tomatoes and strawberries are vaccinated against bugs, not sprayed, he says. His farm is organic. He hasn't noticed the Western sanctions. He says he doesn't have any Western machinery. The tractors are from Belarus. 2 of his employees are fighting as soldiers against Ukraine, Roman tells us. He has erected a large Z made of straw, a symbol of support for the special operation.
I'm in favor of the special operation that our government is conducting. If my neighbor installed a cannon on his property and pointed it at my house, at my family, even if all the neighbors said he wouldn't shoot the cannon, I wouldn't like that situation.
Roman believes the Russian propaganda that Ukraine is an imminent threat to Russia.
We still consider Ukraine to be the neighboring nation, our brother nation. I don't understand why Ukraine is going this way. Why don't they reach an agreement? I'm not a politician, just a farmer. I see it the way I see it.
I think to myself what a contrast there is between Roman's attitude and the pictures from Ukraine.
Auf den Straßen des Vororts Butscha wurden zahlreiche getötete Zivilisten entdeckt.
Eine Fake-Attacke.
Das sind Kriegsverbrechen und sie werden von der Welt als Völkermord verurteilt werden.
Russland will die vollständige Kontrolle über Mariupol. Alles ist zerstört. Von unserer Stadt ist nichts mehr übrig.
Die Militärparade in der Hauptstadt ist traditionell die größte in ganz Russland.
Für Russland, für den Sieg.
In the crudest tone and with drastic comparisons to Hitler, Russia's propaganda blames Ukraine and the West for all this.
Herr Scholz, ja, das ist keine Milinki, совсем маленький Führer. Na, Deutsche, ja, Panzer, ja, sehr gut.
And glorifies death and destruction.
Я предполагаю, что страна станет в коллапсе. Отсутствие электроэнергии – это отсутствие воды, отсутствие холодильников элементарных, отсутствие канализации. Я предполагаю, что это должно быть продолжено. Это даст очень хороший эффект.
These talk shows on Russian state television have been running for hours every day since the war began in February. What they say there is so violent, it would be considered a crime in Germany. And here, the broadcasters just run it. And even if not everyone watches state television, somehow this propaganda still spreads throughout the country. In June, I visit Konstantin Osnos, known as Kostya, and his family in Moscow again. They've decided in 10 days they will emigrate to Israel. They have never been there before.
I feel fear, adventure, panic, uncertainty, joy, a combination of all the emotions. Our kids are much more nervous than we are, especially our older daughter. Are you nervous?
No, I'm excited.
The two cats are also coming along. I wonder if it's really sunk in what this family is up against.
It's not at all how I wanted it to be. Israel is a very difficult country. Now it looks like it's inevitable. A choice when you don't really have a choice.
They've gathered all the documents to prove that Konstantin has Jewish roots. There, they will be able to get Israeli passports.
Honestly, I would love to work and live in Russia. If Russia were an open, friendly country that was evolving, a calm and humane country. If we had an influence on life in Russia and we could have some kind of voice, but that's not possible at all.
What I notice again and again is resignation. And it's increasing, even among those who protested against the war at first. In St. Petersburg, Daria Heikkinen and her boyfriend Daniil were suddenly targeted by strangers.
We were off work and woke up at 12 o'clock to a knock on the door, so I went to the peephole. At first we thought it was the police. Then I saw that the peephole was painted over with red paint. I opened the door to a huge pile of dung. The next day, Daniil was going to work. He was swearing loudly and said, "Come here quick." The door was doused with a green chemical. And there were flyers addressed to me personally, saying I was a Finnish Nazi because I have a Finnish last name. There were threats. "We're close by, just wait." And another pile of dung at the door. This says traitor, and there was a black strip next to it. We think it's a mourning ribbon people stick on portraits of the deceased. So it was also a threat.
They filed a complaint, but the police didn't solve the case. Daria won't let herself be so easily intimidated. She's planning the first anniversary event of a local opposition movement she founded called Mayak. It criticizes those in power and aims to unite opposition forces. Can the event take place without problems? What a contrast. There's fighting in Ukraine, and here there's a party. We're back with Roman, the farmer from Stavropol. They're throwing a foam party at his small amusement park with the straw figures. It's one of Russia's most important national holidays.
Russia Day. It's all about patriotism. For me, this holiday means that all Russians unite to support each other, including when it comes to the special operation.
Friends from Germany sometimes ask me if you can still live normally in Russia. Here, you see that you can. In fact, the special operation in Ukraine seems quite far away, even in people's minds, even though many soldiers and volunteers went there from this region. But here, there's great support.
Let's support our boys participating in the special operation. Stand up, everyone!
Stavropol Cemetery is just 40 minutes away. Russian soldiers who died in Ukraine are buried here. We're not welcome with our camera, because talking to foreign media can cause problems for relatives. This here is just one small city of very many in this region of Russia. There are 40 to 50 graves here. Most of them were paratroopers who died in Ukraine. And more are added every week.
Unterdessen gehen die Kämpfe im Osten der Ukraine unvermindert weiter.
Die ukrainischen Streitkräfte sind zunehmend machtlos.
Zum Zeitpunkt des Angriffs sollen sich mindestens 1000 Zivilisten in dem Gebäude aufgehalten haben.
Wir werden der Ukraine so viel wie möglich helfen.
Der wirtschaftliche Blitzkrieg gegen Russland hatte von vornherein keine Chance auf Erfolg.
Selbst Chefs von Staatskonzernen prognostizieren Russland eine 2-jährige Rezession.
Konstantin will leave with his family in 1 week. He wants to say goodbye to his parents. That's why we're going to see him at their dacha near St. Petersburg. Dachas are small houses in the countryside that many big city Russians own. Konstantin is clearly happy here.
Here at the dacha, I feel good. I just feel at home. This is home to me.
The family gathers in this idyllic Russian location one more time. His daughter from his first marriage and his parents. He will be leaving them all behind. How worried are you?
My entire head is full of organizing and chats. I feel a kind of abstract agitation. I've said a few times that I won't manage, that nothing will work.
Konstantin's parents are worried. Will they still be able to see their son in the future?
I understand, and to some extent I even support his plans, but it's still sad.
Konstantin's parents once wanted to leave the country themselves, but things turned out differently. Konstantin is now living out his parents' dream.
It's not that we don't like Russia. No, we're patriots of Russia. We had the chance to leave several times. We were invited to Germany. We'd already filled out the documents, and twice the authorities gave us the green light. But we didn't leave. It somehow felt like it would be a shame to leave, because it was a time of hope, the end of the 90s. And we thought there was more to come, but nothing happened.
We have another meeting with Daria. Today is the one-year anniversary of her political organization in difficult times. Daria and her team plan to talk about police violence, among other things. She warns us that the police themselves could disrupt the event.
No political events are happening in St. Petersburg, or if they are, then only behind closed doors, because there's always a risk of going to jail. We've been waiting for an occasion to meet, like today, because it's meetings like this that are really lacking right now in the activism of the opposition. We hope the police don't show up.
Is that a real risk?
It happened the last two times. Once I was detained before the meeting, so I couldn't get there. The second time they waited at the exit for ages, but then they didn't detain anyone or enter the building. And this time, the fact that I'm here is probably a good sign.
Daria's goal is to draw attention to local political grievances, but hardly anyone turns up. For me, this somehow represents the opposition in Russia. It's supposed to be starting now, but nobody's here. Half of the people here are journalists, despite the fact that Daria has more than 150,000 followers on TikTok. People are probably just too afraid. Understandably so, since under Putin, the Russians have learned that it's better to not interfere in politics. Daria is one of the few who takes risks and does it anyway. It's 5 a.m. in Stavropol. We're driving to Roman's farm. It's the end of July and they're harvesting watermelons. Roman too recognizes that the war with Ukraine is lasting longer than the Kremlin planned. Some of his employees went there to fight. Are your boys back yet?
No, they're still there. One came back. Everything's fine. We talked. He was slightly injured.
But somehow I sense some agitation in Roman, even if he doesn't admit it. We check whether the watermelons are ripe. He wants to send some of them to Donetsk and Luhansk free of charge to support the people in the areas conquered by Russia. We measure the sugar content.
что вы отправляете в Луганск, вы чувствуете, что вы полезны?
Да. Здесь мы,
Yes.
можно сказать так,
We're here in the hinterland, so to speak, minding our own business.
занимаемся своим делом, да, там, то есть
The guys there are defending us against Nazis,
защищают нас от нацизма,
protecting us from external factors that might have an impact on us.
могут повлиять на нас. Вот.
Why shouldn't we help?
Мы не должны помогать.
We have to help.
Мы обязаны.
We have to.
Мы должны это делать.
This is a view I've heard a lot in Russia this year. In wartime, the country unites. Roman believes the Kremlin's narrative that Nazis are in power in Ukraine. He can't imagine that the vast majority of Ukrainians no longer want to live under Russia's influence.
Простые люди.
Ordinary Russians overwhelmingly support Putin's policies. That's not hegemony on the part of Putin, like people say. That we've been intimidated here. No, we haven't been intimidated. I say what I want. And this isn't all just propaganda. We observe, we analyze. If we were watching only Russian media, we could call it propaganda. But we also watch others via VPN servers. We watch European and American media, what they say, also the Ukrainian media. That's how we analyze the situation.
For people in the West, it looks like Russia has crossed the border of a foreign country.
If Poland pointed its guns in the direction of Berlin, wouldn't you be against it? Or would you be in favor of it? Would you just say, go ahead and shoot?
Roman remains a supporter of the special operation, and he believes that Russia's military intervention in its neighboring country was necessary. It's the day of departure for Konstantin's family. It's very hectic, but the main thing is that the documents are packed.
I'm panicking, in shock. There's a complete lack of emotion. I'm in the zone, quick, quick, quick. It's a pity that we've lost some treasured possessions, but it's too late for that now. Our lives are changing, and you shouldn't dwell in the past.
In Israel, they plan to stay with friends at first. Other than that, they have no further plans yet. A son, a daughter, a father, a mother, and the 2 cats, off to start a new life. In Moscow, the war in Ukraine remains invisible. In Europe's largest city, you can choose to completely ignore Europe's most serious war in decades. Moscow in summer is lively as always. I don't notice any changes at all. And even chains like this Starbucks have been long replaced by a Russian owner. Even the logo is the same. Starbucks has just been changed to Stars Coffee. Russia imitates Western brands. By summer, the economic consequences are hardly noticeable, although over 1,000 Western companies have left the country and Russia is threatened with a severe recession. It's becoming increasingly difficult for us foreign journalists to do our job. People are reluctant to give us interviews. Many fear they will get into trouble if they do. They're afraid. In Kaluga, we want to talk to Dmitry again, the Volkswagen employee. The war has been going on for half a year now, and Volkswagen's assembly lines have been at a standstill for that entire time. How is he doing? We just heard that Volkswagen now knows we are here too and is putting pressure on its employees not to talk to us. That's how difficult it is to work in Russia during the special operation. Let's see what happens. We drive to the Volkswagen factory once again. In March, this parking lot for newly manufactured cars was full. Now, no one knows what's going to happen next. We're waiting for news from Dmitry.
00.
The number you are calling is temporarily unavailable. Please call back later.
Dmitry's not responding to us anymore. No idea what happened. In fall, there's some news that changes things a lot.
In der Ukraine versuchte Russland, Fakten zu schaffen.
In Donetsk kommen sie mit durchsichtigen Wahlurnen an die Haustüren.
Putin hat Gebiete in der Ostukraine zu russischem Staatsgebiet erklärt.
Der Kreml droht der Ukraine, dass Rückeroberungsversuche einem Angriff auf die russische Föderation gleichkämen.
Präsident Putin hat eine Teilmobilmachung angeordnet.
Etwa 300.000 Reservisten sollen jetzt eingezogen werden.
Als Folge versuchen offenbar Menschen in aller Eile, das Land zu verlassen.
Lange Schlangen am einzigen Grenzübergang nach Georgien.
Hundreds of thousands fled Russia before the mobilization. I'm here in Moscow at the end of October, and the city has changed completely. You don't see it at first glance, but you feel it very strongly. People are in a state of stress. Many left the country after the announcement of the mobilization here in Russia, and you can feel it in the building I live in as well. People have been leaving. Lots of apartments are empty. We're back in Kaluga because we finally reached Dmitry and his wife. He's suddenly very worried about the mobilization. Victoria takes us to their apartment. It's still officially unclear what will become of the Volkswagen factory in Kaluga, but there are rumors it's to be sold. Dmitry now works a lot in his second job, renovating buildings. Unlike in the spring, he now feels quite uncertain. There are lots of unanswered questions.
What's the situation? What's happening? How will we be able to continue living? How can we pay off mortgages and loans? Everyone is afraid of losing their jobs.
Dmitry used to serve in the military, but he hasn't been called up this time.
Things changed after the mobilization, of course. They called up people from the factory. Some people I know. And at the factory they say they took some from there and there. Exactly how many I can't say.
What did you think? What did you feel?
Fear, of course. What else would you feel when you can be sent there? Fear and uncertainty. What can you do about it?
How do you think the situation with Ukraine will evolve?
I don't know.
Dmitry says he doesn't want to talk about politics. After that, it's just small talk and snacks. And in Stavropol, Roman is out planting lavender.
This is going to be a cultural area with flowers. The whole area will be sort of a photo zone, a selfie zone. We're building our own Provence here, so you don't have to go to France.
On Roman's farm, preparations for the next season are underway. The pumpkin has to go, the land is being cleared, and the plants for next year are growing in the greenhouse. I ask Roman what has changed for him this year.
I don't see any big changes. We're working in the same rhythm as last year and the year before last. I don't see any changes in the moral sphere either. But it's quite possible that patriotism is increasing because of the partial mobilization, which called up more people. Relatives are starting to support their boys more, to think of them.
In Roman's case, the conviction that his Russia is doing the right thing has continued to grow. He expresses no criticism of Putin. On the contrary, Roman is convinced that everything is going right.
The Russian people obviously support the leaders of this country because they are the professionals. They know better than the common people, and they're doing it right. We see that it's being done right. 90% of the time, everything is done right.
Will Russia win?
Of course. In the beginning, it seemed like it was going to happen fast. That's no longer the case, but I still think it's unlikely to take 10 years.
I say goodbye. Roman and I have talked a lot. It seems to me that his view has become more entrenched. Even by September, Russian authorities were already estimating that 6,000 soldiers had been killed. Observers believe the number is significantly higher. On our first visit here to the cemetery in Stavropol, there was only this row of soldiers' graves. Now we've returned and a new row has been added. And the war is causing more and more problems for Russia.
Die für Russland strategisch wichtige Brücke zur Krim ist durch eine Explosion schwer beschädigt worden.
Solche Verbrechen können nicht ohne Antwort bleiben.
Dutzende Angriffe russischer Raketen und Kampfdrohnen.
40 Städte von Raketen getroffen.
Das Ausmaß erinnert an die ersten Kriegstage.
Gezielt wurden Kraftwerke und Umspannwerke attackiert.
Dadurch sind rund 40% der ukrainischen Energieinfrastruktur zerstört worden.
Russland will Truppen aus Cherson in der Südukraine abziehen.
In der rückeroberten Stadt Cherson haben Einwohner die Ankunft ukrainischer Soldaten gefeiert.
We're in Jerusalem. We've come to visit Konstantin at his new home. He's hardly changed, and the buildings in Jerusalem don't seem very different from those in Russia. Was emigration the right decision?
I don't feel lonely here. It's like a piece of Russia moved here with me. People I was in contact with in Russia have also moved here.
Arsia continues to work from home as a translator for her old company. Konstantin doesn't have a job yet, and he hasn't really started looking for one. The IT industry is booming in Israel. But Konstantin is not finding it easy to navigate such a different job market. Things are not easy for his son Philippe either. He goes to school here, but the lessons are in Hebrew. You don't understand anything?
Yes.
That's not a great feeling, is it?
That's not a good feeling at all.
Do you miss Moscow and Russia?
Yes.
What do you miss?
My friends, my school, my home, the things I left there, my surroundings, my language.
Моя обстановка, мой язык.
Konstantin's thoughts are often with his parents at home in St. Petersburg. He calls them almost every day, but he believes the decision to emigrate was the right one. How do you feel about Konstantin and his family being here now?
We miss Kostya. We miss our grandson, but I already told him in the summer there was no other way out. Especially now, when mobilization is likely to start again. It's just dangerous to be here.
How do you feel about the situation in Russia?
The situation is very upsetting. Sad. Disturbing. There's no peace for the soul.
Konstantin has far fewer of these feelings here in Israel.
I guess I'm calmer here. At times, I would lie in bed in Russia and hear footsteps on the stairs and think, what's that? No, they didn't come for me. No police came. But judging by everything I saw on social media, it was very dangerous there. And I was scared. Now, of course, things are calmer in that respect.
Asya has invited other Russian exiles to a living room concert today. Artistic pursuits are her real passion. They give her strength.
We're learning to live here, and we're learning to enjoy everything we experience. Enjoying it is an important part of our life right now, because we'll always manage to be sad anyway. We have many difficulties and obstacles to overcome.
The couple see their future here in Israel for now, until things change in Russia. Konstantin, however, hopes to be able to visit his parents soon. It's winter in St. Petersburg. We haven't heard from Daria, the young political activist from the city, for a long time. She ignores messages and calls, the lights are off in her apartment, she rarely posts political content on her channels. Did the police intimidate her? I try to call her one last time. So the call went through, but she declined it. That's a shame.
Sehr schade.
I suspect now in winter the pressure has become too much for her as well. What will I take with me from this year in Russia? Huge upheaval, political unrest, economic chaos, like some were expecting, have so far failed to materialize. The last vestiges of freedom for dissenters are no longer there. What remains is the realization that anyone who is not in support had better keep quiet in the new Russia, because the country is at war.